Welcome to today's podcast. My guest here is Dennis Boca from Tradies Network. Welcome, Dennis.
Thanks for having me on board.
How are you going today?
Yeah, just glad this rain's finally stopped.
Right.
Getting at least a little bit of blue sky, so and enjoying and appreciating the fact of being able to get some jobs done on site now. So it's great.
I'm sure you are not the only one that is happy about the
Yeah,
sunshine.
yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. More importantly, being the very first guest that we have had on the podcast.
I feel very privileged. Thank you.
So let's get started by learning a bit about you and your business. So tell us, how did you get started?
Well, yeah, been a tradie for 22 years now. I'm heading to my late 30s and been surrounded by construction in general since I was 15 years old. Obviously, a lot of our European heritage, being good solid WOG tradies as they are. Definitely, been exposed to a lot of that on site. But I was the lucky bugger that got to go to university a couple of times and get my head around sort of the marketing media side of it as well. Numbers is in the family also, so my mother is a mathematician and whatnot. My brother is an accountant, so numbers is definitely in the family. So naturally, I was a bit more drawn to the numbers side of it with estimating. So yeah, pretty much just wanted to try to solve a common problem out there for tradies, which is obviously keeping them on the tools without having to, sacrifice their afternoons, evenings, and weekends with their families, trying to chase the next job. So we try to keep them, focus on being busy on the tools. So that's our sort of time to shine, is the estimating side and the networking side of it. So we're helping builders find tradies and tradies find builders on both fronts. So finding a solution to a problem, and really just, from all the bad experiences I had in construction, I wanted to try to, prevent other tradies from going down the same path and try to avoid, at least some common problems, that do occur in all businesses, but especially for, tradies, out there in the industry.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm sure like a lot of people listening will be able to identify with those pain points as well, of spending those evenings doing emails and quotations instead of spending time with the family.
Yeah, look, it can be really stressful. Like, I mean, I've, putting my own hat on, doing, various finishing trades. Like, I tried to be the business owner, the estimator, the project manager, the guy doing all the logistics, bringing materials to site and all that sort of thing. And you try to do it all and you just can't do any of those things well. So yeah, really refining, structures and procedures and everything like that to find a solid team around you takes time to build. But once you've got that in place, obviously it does, come to fruition and really streamlines your approach to your business. And regardless of whether you're a tradie or somewhere out in another industry, you really have to have a system in place in order for things to work and operate smoothly. So.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And like even in my own business, until I've implemented systems and processes around all of the customer communication and the way that everything runs, it's not until you do that you realize how beneficial it is to your time, your mental health, everything.
Yeah, definitely.
So your business connects the customers with the tradies. That's pretty cool. So have you always wanted to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, look, as a 15-year-old kid coming up, my dad took my brother and I aside and said, look, we're going to teach you how to really work on a consignment basis. So starting in the IT computer game, he's like, look, we're going to go to a Sunday computer market, and here you get to choose whether you want to have one trestle table full of stock on consignment or two trestle tables, and you decide which products you want to sell, whether it's, motherboards, CPUs, power supplies, monitors, hard drives, take your pick. So at 15 years old, I was exposed to that and having to make a decision about even, hey, do I want to sell this for $20 that cost me 15, or do I want to sell this and try to go, maximize my profit, but, selling less quantity. So it was quite unique and cool to have that experience. And obviously, those basics and fundamentals really sort of sank in. And my brother and I both run different businesses now. So he runs an accounting firm, and majority of his clients are tradies and builders as well, ironically. But yeah, it's quite cool to have that exposure, and that was putting me through my paces as a teenager, with my first ABN as 15, 16 years old. So it's pretty cool.
Wow, that's quite inspirational actually. And yeah, it's very cool to see that you've learned that from such a young age. You've got 2 degrees, like both of them are in obviously like the business space with marketing and journalism. You've got your trade background, so you've come into this space and you're like, I really want to make a difference in this industry. You're already very qualified for this job, right? What's been some of your biggest challenges along the way with getting Tradies Network off the ground and with marketing?
So obviously the end game of Tradies Network is to be sort of absorbed or perceived as the Uber of tradies, if that makes sense. So a lot of the
Yeah.
time, obviously now, Uber doesn't own any cars, but yet they've got millions of cars on the road globally, right? Airbnb, they don't own any property as such. It's owners who own properties. We're just the facilitator in the middle, right? So what we wanted to achieve, like I said, on behalf of tradies, is to keep work flowing so they don't have to stress about, oh, I've got this many guys that I'm trying to feed, put food on their table every week, and I'm going to make sure that, hey, I've got work lined up next week, next month, next year. So what we're trying to do is facilitate that holistically and be like, look, we'll keep work funneling to you. You stay put on site and just let us know when you're done that project. We'll have another one lined up for you. So we do all the behind the scenes works when it comes to sending expressions of interest to builders or general clientele out in the consumer market as well. But yeah, facilitating the initial EOIs, finding out, look, price points or what rates builders are prepared to pay. Then we find tradies who are accepting those rates. So it really is solving that problem for these tradies on site, and it's really just popping a stress pin from their brain and just de-stressing their processes and procedures, and allows them to be more operational on site and work flowing better, because it means they can stay focused on the task at hand. So I'll be, the first one to put my hand up and say I'm not, a jack of all trades, and I'm not the guru of anything. As I've had conversations with you in the past, I blurt out the fact that I just know some shit about some shit. It's just the reality of the scenario. I've been exposed to certain things in construction and in business and marketing and that sort of thing, and I've just found the right solution to the biggest problems in this game, which is pretty much keeping the right workflow and getting the quality of work great, so that tradies can maximize their profits as well, so that they're not, losing time. Oh, I've got to quote 3 jobs this week, and that's going to take me probably 3 hours of my time that I'm not allowing in my price points for, my overheads or anything like that. So yeah, we just focus our time and energy on estimating, so that, the turnaround time is quicker. So by the time a client or a builder calls us and says, hey, I need this job priced up, by the time your general tradie can go and see them, it's going to be a week or a month, or in this current climate, could be multiple months of just sitting there waiting before they can even get a hold of a tradesman on the phone or on site. So we've got a team at Tradies Network dedicated to being proactive and actually being able to be available to estimate these jobs within a 48-hour turnaround or whatever it might be, so that we are very efficient in our workflow, so that they're not having to do it, and they just show up and complete a job and then start the next one when they're good and ready. So it really is, stressful from the tradie standpoint, and from a builder's or client standpoint as well, to be like, well, everyone's getting frustrated because we're not getting information in time to tender a project or to start on site. So we try to be that facilitator and that middleman to make sure that these guys are good to go. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Yeah, that's awesome. And especially in today's world where it's so difficult for people to book a tradie or a builder, and there's so much happening with the flood repairs, and especially in the east coast of Australia, just constantly hearing from the industry like how difficult it is to, and you're waiting quite a long time before you can get someone. So it sounds like you really just getting to the heart of that problem and providing a solution. So let's get specific about marketing. So what have been some of your biggest marketing successes with Tradies Network?
Oh, well, the philosophy I go with is not one that's a curveball or anything like that. It's your typical keep it simple, stupid. Like your KISS methodology always goes a long way. So don't overcomplicate it. Keep it really defined to your brand and keep it really defined to your audience. Localized marketing definitely works the best. I've heard a real estate agent say it in the past where there's no use being a nobody everywhere. So don't go and try to work in every postcode when you can't get to every postcode. So start locally, work within even just your own, suburb, or work within your own networks and put the feelers out there to go through and, organically grow your business. Because like you said, with the whole, don't be a nobody everywhere, you're going to get that exposure factor. I think I blurt this out quite often where would you rather have 10,000 viewers once or have 1,000 viewers 10 times? And it still equates to 10,000. So I would rather having 1,000 viewers 10 times, because by the time they are aware of your brand and then absorb that promotion that you've currently been promoting or marketing out there, whether it's through social media or through, traditional, marketing, avenues through radio or billboards or anything like that, you'd rather have them needing you and remembering you. So those, 1,000 people 10 times is far better than 10,000 people just once who'll see you and forget you. So keeping your branding even like simplistic, like, you can see our logo and our branding is all black and white. We're very direct in our culture and our communication that, there's no gray areas. It's purely, hey, this, what you see is what you get in terms of your branding, and having sure that you think about those things like internally about what you want to promote your business to be. Obviously, tradies don't have to overcomplicate it and think, oh, I've got this like selection criteria to do, to tick and flick. But obviously, engaging with someone, like yourself to even capture, their projects. Like, if you want to try to attract, for example, hey, I'm trying to get more industrial work, right? Or I'd like to really work on more coffee shops. Well, you need to do a coffee shop, capture the photos and the videos of that coffee shop, and then you'll most likely attract more cafe owners or more, consumers in that space, because people are very visual. They see something like, oh, I need a tradie for my coffee shop or for my hairdresser or for my industrial warehouse or for a high rise. Like, you've got to promote what you're trying to capture more of, if that makes sense. If you want to work in the insurance space or in the industrial space, take your pick. So you do have to start somewhere, by all means. Do whatever it takes to get that initial, project under your belt, and then obviously try to attract more of what works for you in terms of like profit margins, and then maximize your marketing to obviously be funneling more work of that nature, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I couldn't agree more with that. In terms of I guess the two takeaways from what you just said is keeping it really consistent and keeping top of mind. So with that example that you've given of, being in front of 1,000 people 10 times, it takes on average, I think these days, the statistic is 17 times of brand exposure before someone will be willing to, buy from you. Obviously that's on average and across all industries, but it's just another example of how much you need to be in front of your customer, and presenting yourself in the right way in order to be seen.
Yeah, absolutely. Because in construction, we're not like, I'll use a coffee shop analogy again. Like I said, we're not something that people consume for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like, if you own a cafe or a restaurant, sure, you've got to be on social media on so many times per day on stories or on your feed or everything like that. Like, people don't consume, oh, I need a tiler who's going to cost me $5,000 or $50,000. That's not a daily transaction. So yes, it is a slow burn. A lot of tradies or builders work in that space and like, oh, I've spent all this money on my marketing budget and I haven't got any conversions. And you're like, well, it's only been 2 weeks, buddy. Like, it's you've got it is a slow burn, and that consistency is definitely key.
And getting in front of the right audience as well. Like, you don't want to be wasting your time and money trying to advertise to people who aren't your right person in the first place. So it's about understanding where your audience is, where they spend time, and then, putting your time and effort into the right places.
Definitely.
Yeah. So what's some of the biggest mistakes that you see tradie businesses make with their marketing?
Thinking that marketing is optional is like the biggest no-no. Like, you need to be constantly working on what's coming next, because otherwise, if you don't have anything in the pipeline, you're going to end up with having no work. Even in the current climate with, people struggling to find tradies, if you're not putting feelers out there, if you're not organically networking, or if you're not, doing like the basics of marketing, of like even just having a social media, like, hey, the social media is there, oh, but it's been inactive for 6 months. Big no no. Like, you've just got to, at least, you don't have to capture every project, just capture the ones that you want highlighted, and make sure that your social media is at least maintained, a couple of times a week, or whatever it might be. So people need to be, or businesses need to be front of mind or top of mind. Like, you really need to keep doing that, because if you're not top of mind, guess what? Your competitor is. And that's obviously, detrimental to your bottom line or your business model. Like, it's just going to have, a much shorter shelf life. If you're not actively, promoting yourself on social media, or updating your website portfolio or anything like that. It doesn't take much these days to do that, but finding people who can, you can outsource that too. You don't need to hire an in-house marketing team, or say, oh, I've got to spend 100 grand on my marketing. It's like, no, you can start small with a budget of $5,000, for example, and that will get you,
Mm.
a couple of months worth of like content, and multiple little snippets or grabs that they can utilize, obviously periodically, to keep that content fluent and keep all that consistency there. And when they try to just capture it all, oh, sweet, oh, my iPhone can capture this. It's like, yeah, but look, if you're a chippy or if you're a Tyler, you're good at what you do, right? You're not a photographer. Pay a photographer or a videographer to come and shoot your content. Like, it doesn't have to be exorbitant amounts, like I said, with lots of zeros at the end of it. Just have a marketing budget, and let, that marketing company know, hey, this is what I want to do. Can I have some guidance from yourself as an expert in that field? And just
Mm.
get something tangible that they can then utilize for, like I said, their portfolio, their company profile, or their social media.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really good point as well. Like, having that professional content does make a huge difference to how you're perceived when someone first comes across your brand,
Yeah.
if they're going onto your website or your social media. And, you don't have to be posting heaps times every week, but just having something consistent up there. And if you've got at least some professional imagery, it can really go a long way for making you look trustworthy and reputable, and giving you credibility in the space. So,
Yeah.
what do you've mentioned that, like, just getting out there, having a social media presence, like being consistent, like, are all things that people aren't maybe doing enough of. What do you think's holding people back from doing that?
Either just being time poor, or
Yeah.
just overthinking it.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking, oh, if they make such a big deal out of it, they're going to be like, oh, I'll get to that eventually, or I'll get to that eventually. Like, just like anything else on site, like, delegate it to someone who it's easy for them to do that task. It's
Mm.
just one of those things that's a no-brainer. Don't even hesitate. Just bite the bullet. Okay, I'm going to write down here $1,000, $5,000. This is what I'm going to dedicate to that, and just know that that's going to be on autopilot and set and forget sort of thing. In terms of this month, we know we're sorted in that, and that's going to obviously get us some exposure. Obviously, being a tradie, you always want value for money. Like, oh, why would I spend $500 on this course, or why would I spend 5 grand on that? So, well, it just makes sense, because you need to do those things. Once again, marketing is not optional. It's just
Mm.
not. Like, forget thinking that, oh yeah, work's just going to land on your lap, because it just doesn't. Like, unless you do the work, you get no results.
Mm.
And I find one of the most useful things I find in terms of your content, for example, will be, keep your social media feed. Like, for example, Instagram obviously is our largest platform that we utilize. On our general feed, when people look up Tradies Network QLD, they'll see there obviously some very nice polished content that's going to attract either someone who's looking, at a medium rise building, or, a commercial or retail building. They'll see multiple things there. But then on stories, sure, keep it a little bit more casual. They can have a bit more raw footage. That doesn't have to be so polished. Hey, you're just giving them a live update. I'm like, oh, this project's currently, hey, the frame's up, and now, we're starting with the next trade. That stuff doesn't have to be completely polished. Yeah, it would help if it looked a little prettier, but it's not the be all and end all. But on your feed, it's your first impression. A picture says 1,000 words. So mind you, if you've got 10 pretty pictures, that's going to tell, close to 1,000,000 words, because people are absorbing that information. They're very visual, and they'll be like, oh, I can see myself, utilizing this guy's services for X, Y, Z, or whatever it might be. Another take home would be, with social media, one of the most like original settings for promoting a post, for example, right, on Facebook. The original setting used to be, let's promote this video that we've just spent money on. Let's spend another $100 or $500 on promoting this video to our audience to capture more views of that. Because the more people that view that video or piece of content, once again, more brand awareness, more exposure, and obviously eventually with more conversions, right? So the original setting is post it to people that like your page and their friends, because then it's a warm lead. Someone like, oh, my mate Cass likes Tradies Network. Oh, I might just have a sticky beak because it's someone who's essentially a mutual friend as such. So it's that very original setting rather than going, oh, I've got to set, Facebook or Instagram has got all these like parameters and, location stuff and all of that. It's like, yeah, it does. And you can really like delve into that and be a specialist in Facebook marketing or social media marketing. But in terms of the basics, you really want to promote to people who like your page because they already like you. Let's get them more eyeballs or more views from them organically, because once again, they're not just going to activate your service or buy into that just by seeing you guys once. Like I said, that's 17 times to absorb it and actually, retain that and take action, right? So it's that logic again of, hey, promote to those people who like your page to make sure that they've seen you, and then their friends as an extended, sort of encouragement to group them in and to welcome them into your business or your brand.
Yeah. I do really love that. And just to clarify, in case any of the listeners are unsure, we are talking about Facebook advertising now. So if you are, Dennis is referring to, if you are going to be doing some Facebook ads, then promote to your warm audience first, who've already engaged with your page, as opposed to promoting to a cold audience who have no idea who you are and who haven't engaged with you before.
Yeah, it's rather than casting the net far and wide and just trying to get, small fish. It's like, well, once again, promote once again to that, warm lead, warm, warm exposure. And then once again, just making sure that you're taking advantage of, your captured audience already and making sure that, hey, we transition those into, paying customers at some point. So,
yeah, that's it. Well, awesome. This has been great. Dennis, tell the listeners where we can find you.
Look, if there's builders looking for tradies, come and see us. Like I said, we offer a whole array of finishing trades to help you with your projects. If you're a tradie and you're looking for either more work or better work, there's a job form on our website. So just go to tradiesnetworkqld.com.au and you'll see a tab on the top left side where you'll see tradies form, and you type that in with 10 easy questions, and then we'll be in touch with you to arrange a site visit or have a coffee.
Amazing. Look, thank you so much, Dennis. This has been awesome. I'm sure that the listeners will find this incredibly helpful, and it's been pretty inspiring hearing your story as well.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. See you later.
Bye.